And we'd like to go straight in and introduce someone who drove in from Lake Charles to be with us here tonight. Originally from New York, Rita Costello has lived all over America and China. She's the director of freshman and sophomore English at McNeese State University and co-editor of the anthology Bend Don't Shatter. Her work has appeared in journals such as Glimmer Train, ACM, Baltimore Review, and Hawaii Review, and anthologies such as Red, White, and Blues, Poetic Vistas on the Promise of America, Only Connect, and Mischief, Caprice, and Other Poetic Strategies. Her work has won the Glimmer Train Poetry Prize. If this is your first time hearing her, you'll find her a profane and challenging author who cuts right to the heart of religion and spirituality with a side dish of that human behavior known as vice. It's Rita Costello, ladies and gentlemen.
I think in my time slot I can fit in about 7 poems, so you won't get profane until the last 3. Starting out serious and moving towards the profane. My first couple poems have a lot to do with geography and geology, and that as a metaphor for change. So the first poem is called Just Below the Skin, and this one is set in Kansas. There is always something sad about the light as it catches orange and yellow on the brown in the cracks and striations of the Flint Hills, the rock texture embedded in the ground, and so like the delicate edges of fossilized mammoth tusks, having held together so long in the dirt that any excuse to crumble would be a relief. The great relief time intended before museums promised to hold them with soaking solutions of Elmer's glue and water. I can't remember which sculpture in which museum it was, Albright Knox, or MoMA, NOMA, or somewhere else. I don't remember which Henry Moore or Brancusi it was that held the perfect curve of your collarbone. Somewhere in the United States it was. There, larger than your skin could contain. But Moores and Brancusis always remind me of bones. Hip bones and femurs, hip bone with child, the protruding ankle bone or bent wrist taut under the skin as the curve of a polished bronze bird. They are all beautiful and somewhat disturbing. There is always something sad in the landscape of bones and the disruption of dirt, the topography of life under layers. It is lovely, but always there in the residue of documentaries. 1945, sound is available but erased. It could only detract from the horror of silence and numbers. Time opened up into emptiness and dirt that can never recover. That is why a voice in the dark is so comforting, so necessary, the constant reminder of a pulse held in beside bones, a promise of light. I can't think if the sun was rising or setting, but I know it was perched on the edge of the world when you told me these hills that held the light were mountains, and I laughed at the thought. Only in the plains could something so small be majestic, but it makes sense if I could believe in your ice age. The melting glaciers had silt enough to fill a mountain range as the front receded, and now these beautiful bones in the dirt are all that can push up from below, little fissures catching the light and holding the landscape together. This one's called Heisenberg's America. It is a textbook certainty principle. Once language records events, memory shifts from layers to surface, measuring only what someone else once remembered. But our atoms are everywhere and nowhere all at once, each explosion breaking us to just as many fragments in the tidal wave of time. Every atom of Polk as much belongs to Bush and the rest of us. Principle, funny word for this organizing strategy behind chaos theory. Human rubble, fallen in patterns, unpredictable though. The fall itself is predicted repeatedly from Icarus to Adam, to Rome and Rwanda. It is written, and we should have known that this was our fall, of bodies, bricks, girders, stripped and tipping to the sunlight like double helix strands of Golgotha. Of course, we still get to write the books, and we only exist as we are measured. This is another geography one. I grew up in New York State on an island in the Niagara River, and I learned somewhere in elementary or middle school that as Niagara Falls eats its way back, that eventually it would hit the island I was living on as a child. And it will be a long, long time before it ever gets there, but that image has always stayed with me. This is called As Niagara Disappears. It was only trivia then, a game we constructed in 7th grade social studies with Mr. Utek. This island was once a kingdom. This island was once Indian land, now just the burial mound outside our classroom window. The first traffic light was at the corner of Love Road and Grand Island Boulevard. The river eats away the stone of the falls 1 foot every 10 years. We are the middle of the river. Imagine all the trembling spectators, breath caught uneasy behind the tongues as the great Blondin first set toe to tightrope at one end of the falls. We wait like they did, knowing the importance of algebra in the real world. But our eyes turn inward, seeing the lost water, our support receding. We are a momentary dolly painting, an island held up by nothing before crashing like a barrel rider to rocky bottom. The rocks and rubble that hold up cliffs can't sustain us forever. Even Dollastone will someday dissolve under the weight of water. Our math saves us and maybe our children. Holy Mary, mother of mileage and mathematics that keeps us alive, as long as we believe the infallibility of numbers and acts of faith that build houses and schools on sinking land. Even with Tesla's Grand Cathedral to industry and the US-Canadian treaty to control the flow of water, someone will sink someday. The X and Y of our algebra will eat their own numbers, and the equation will fall in swirling wreckage. It is no wonder the suicide rate, 1 every 2 weeks. This is the only water in the world that doesn't leave the body floating. This next poem is sometimes part 5 of a 5-part poem, and sometimes it's the 5th poem in a series. And the first 3 words are before all others. All others are in the other 4 parts. Before all others, there is Jack, a philosopher's stone, transmuting me from the new girl in a new town, new school, no language at all, to the cool guy's new friend. First translating my drawings into admiration in English class, someone praising Jack's own pencil to page, in a last-minute rush to finish his homework. Nothing, he says first, as if addressing the effort, then pointing across the sea of desks at me, the girl with no name. You should see her stuff, she's good. And he translates himself into a multitude. The next morning, a girl I dreamed gave the Spanish teacher a nervous breakdown, first turns her eyes on me. The feeling in my stomach is maybe fear, maybe some feeling I can't yet name. You're Jack's new friend. It isn't a question, though in my lexicon it should be. Soon enough, I know them all, as if a strange language miraculously appeared on my tongue. It is Jack's band that gives me a name beyond the classroom. The hours spent translating me into sound. All the words my tongue and teeth can never shape, reinterpreted from ink into music. At bars, my name comes to mean no covers, no ID, and free beer. Jack translates my drawings into flyers first, before the other bands come. I am a language already in translation. It is high school. I can't know who I am outside of others. I am a small town with a history of great violence. I probably should have said before starting to read that last line is the theme throughout the poem because it's set in Kent, Ohio, where the Kent State Massacre was. So a small town with a history of great violence is the theme of the full poem. Now it's time for the profane. To escape our lot. And lot is capitalized in that title. The world is always behind us in stories. Songs were never enough for Orpheus, the harp strings to pluck at the heart of Pluto, and Lot, who fucked his daughters. Perhaps the turn to salt is not so bad an escape from marriage to a man like Lot. We never know what lies behind us, our history, our monsters, our mutilated memories with wagging tongues, to remind us only that they are not real. Nothing solid as a harp string, lasting as a pillar of salt against a desert wind. They are only stories, chasing at our backs with instruction for what we should not do again. The lessons are always behind us, and some fool God before us shouts conditions, clauses, fine print our eyes won't let us see. But even if we did, we are all Sisyphus, stuck in the circle of everything behind us and before us again, again, again. We all look over our shoulders. I can't see in the dark over there to know if I have more time. Okay. All right, we'll continue with this one's called Discovering Resonance, and it is also profane. Fuck the drum roll. This is the beat of life, tonguing the riddle into a sour face just to enable a smile. The rhythm of the skateboard's wheels clacking the city cement is music. The buses and braking in business of High Street is beautiful, he says. You just have to learn to hear it to fall in love. Smoking a bowl behind the high school gym was the only way he could make it this still, this long, but there's nothing in this for him any longer. I tell you, in 4th grade, she tied me down to the desk with my own leather belt, and I waited so long to be let up again. He'll learn it by living it with sticks on skins, life and love in the streets that leave Virginia, for people that move with real music. Morning, after work, he speaks with pride that's overwhelming, swaying out the story of his father to a soft Radiohead song about plastic, played loud on the stereo downstairs. His father in federal prison, getting his degree, getting out, getting on with his life as an English teacher. Fuck the drum roll, he says. This isn't an introduction, this is a drum. This is the way skin is supposed to sound when you beat on it.